Hi everybody, this is Marie Wheeler with Treasures Upcycle, Marie Wheeler Art, and I will be showing you my loose florals. I have a small canvas that has ochre, and I'm using my gloss glazing medium. I have a 1-inch brush and my colors on the side. Some are transparent and some are more opaque. So I'm using 2 transparent colors to sketch in my background. As I was saying before, I like starting out with transparent colors, and this will be the dark. When I do florals, I can start with different colors, but it's always a darker tone, even if it's a pink or orange, or peachy. So I will just loosely sketch in my design, holding my brush. Sometimes I hold it a little different, depending on if my canvas is laying down or if I have a bigger one. I have different brushes that are 1 inch. Some are longer handles. This one's just a little short one that fits in the palm of my hand. And I'm just playing with colors, adding it a little bit darker so I can have a center. If you look at the one I have on the left upper corner, that's more pink or very light pink. This one won't be so. It'll be a darker one, and I'm going to add some peach colors in it. But the biggest thing I just kind of makes my marks here with transparent colors and with the glazing medium, and I'm just putting down back and forth, lightly holding the brush of dark tones, even for the leaves. They're just suggestions. When I do a bigger piece, a lot of times I'll put more of the leaves in first. So I'm just going back and forth suggestions. No perfect shaped at all right now. And I'm going to do the design. Then I will do the shape of a vase with the same color. And these are just one color that I've used. This is just the design, or just the way I move my brush. My brush is very light-handed. I'll use the tip of it. Sometimes I'll lay it down flat, but it's basically I don't put a lot of pressure on. And you can see there's a floral design there. I push the paint into each other. I don't, want one to look perfectly a shape of a rose. And the biggest thing when I do this is using the glazing medium, using the bigger brush, and laying layers down. So this is a more of a opaque color, but I'm mixing it in with my transparent. So I'm putting a second color down. As you see, I added some white, so I'm tinting it a little bit. So there's 2 different shades of the color that I have. And I'm going to go back and forth and add different colors. But a lot of times you can take it and you can mix it with the palette knife, and you'll have your whole palette with different colors. But on this one, I'm just mixing as I go along. And I always add my glazing. So I'm going to hold my brush, and I'm going to do a very abstract looking shape of a flower. But now I'm getting a second color on it. And because it's wet and I use the glazing medium, it will blend into each other. And as I'm doing my design, if I want to deepen the color, I'll pick up some purple. So I'm doing little buds and little florals. Let's see, I'm using this to basically draw. I might just sit back and just not say too much and just let you watch me do it. But I'm deepening it probably in the center. See? And it's all wet, so I can move it around. But the biggest thing is I'm getting a darker tone first, and dark to mid-tone. And when I do this, it's kind of like a push and pull of colors. That paper towel is wet over there. It doesn't have to be. I just had a wet paper towel. But see how I'm using my tip of my brush and I'm kind of pushing the paint around? This is just how I do it, how I make my florals. Yeah, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to make some greens and do some leaves in between. I don't actually look at a flower when I do these florals. I don't want them to look realistic. It's just the ugly stage of the underpainting. So I'm mixing some greens in with it. I put that's the more of transparent yellow, and I'm doing some of my stems pulling down. As you see at the beginning of it, though, I did like a little background with the color that I used for the flowers, so that if it peeks through, that reddish color is underneath it. I'm totally okay with that. So now see how I'm holding my brush and I'm just making little marks of shapes. This one is going to be a little bit different than the one on the left. The one on the left, I had thicker stems and thicker movements of my brush. This will be more of thinner, more thinner strokes for the stems and the leaves. So it looks pretty dark. You can't see very much. It's all building layers. So I'm picking up. I have different colors of yellows there. So I'm making this more of a little pink with the orange tint to it. So now I'm going back and laying in a lighter color. And you just see, I don't stay in one place. So I'm doing like suggested shapes of leaves. And I'm holding my brush lightly. I'm using the tips or maybe the flat end of it. So the key to this for me is having different shades of colors, keep it in the same value, not being perfect of it, hiding and tucking in the flowers inside the leaves. When you make these little ones on these little, it's to me it's a little harder than when I have a bigger canvas and I can really have more suggestions of the leaves or the petals. So I'm using like 3 different colors, really, really dark, more of a medium value. Then I'm going to add some orange to it. This is just for this one design. And that's more of an opaque yellow that I'm using. And now I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to play with leaves. Like I said, it's a dance of lights and darks. And I don't care if they're perfect. I don't care if they lay on top of the flower. Because at the very end, I'm going to take a lighter color in my background and I'm going to shape those leaves like I want. I'm going to shape the flowers like I want. So you can see another value of a blue-green has been laid down for the leaves. The color on the top, there's 2 reds up there. One is more of a elixir crimson, the middle one. And the other one is more of a primary red with a tint of orange to it. So I'll make my color up and then maybe I'll bring it down and make it a little lighter by adding some white to it, a tint. So I'm going to go back in and you're going to see it's kind of got a little purple color to it, but it's adding another layer. I'm not covering it all up. I'm shaping, doing little petals. But it's all layering. And the paint is wet because of the gloss and glazing medium I use. But it is kind of ugly right now. It's a very ugly stage. And and I go back and forth of doing flowers and then the leaves. Add a little more to the same color I have. It would just bring it up one. And if you do a color and it's too, you need to tone it down, you add a little bit of gray instead of the white. See, I'm doing shapes, making sure I leave pockets of space in between. And sometimes you can take your finger and just blend it a little bit into the background. You can see that it's not really a perfect rose, perfect flower. I still keep the shape of it. I'm probably gonna work on my leaves, picking up some of the transparent yellow. Also, I'm working on my stems. So with my stems, I do darks and lights. I do different shades of the green. I can tone it down by using gray. I either can use the point of my brush, but the whole thing is done with a bigger brush. This is a 1-inch brush. Or I can lay the brush down flatter and make bigger stems. But I don't care if I could see some of the background of the ground color that I used, the ochre, or the dark color that I used. So I'm toning it down by using a little gray. And I'm using whatever color I have in my palette and bringing it down and doing different values in it. Going in a different direction. Making sure that I have darks underneath. Without darks laying next to lights, the lights don't stand out. See, there's lighter. Gives it a little pop because I have dark behind it or surrounding it. Make sure that I keep that shape of the vase that's coming down to a point. And I'm taking that color and I'm dancing it around, moving my brush back and forth like there's a leaf on top of a leaf and another color. And I'm going in between. See how the dark underneath it, now the light is gonna pop. So it's basically layers and moving your brush back and forth in a light touch. And I don't care if it's perfect. I'm making some leaves going around the flowers. But see, because I had dark behind it, it's starting to pop. And nothing is perfect. So basically I don't have any green on my wet palette. All I have is different shades of blue. I have cerulean blue. I have phthalo blue. Mine is in a red shade. There's yellow and then there's green shade. And I have different forms of red and orange. I have different yellows, transparent and opaque, and my white and my gray. I do have a touch of black on there. The reason why I use black is when I make the green up, sometimes I have trouble sometimes getting the darkness I want, so I'll just put a tad of the black in, and it's there's tint tone and shades, so that's the shade. And see how I made another color by adding a little bit of orange to it. It's toning it down, and I probably grabbed some gray to it, but I personally don't have where, I know a lot of people lay the paint down and don't touch it. And like when I do these, I use a bigger brush and I move wet on wet, being careful not to make it muddy and still keeping colors underneath it. And so far I haven't put white down all by itself. The white is always mixed. Even when I do my background, I'll have glazing medium with white, and I may add a touch of gray to it, or I may add a touch of the cerulean blue. So now I'm making another green pie. I don't basically use paint right out of the tubes. I mix colors. So if you have trouble mixing colors, I suggest that maybe you take a day to get your tubes out and play with different colors to do an all green, different greens that you might have, or different blues and yellows you might have to make greens. So see how there's like layers of stems coming down? I'm still holding my brush light. I'm not a heavy-handed painter. Some people might be. I am not. So this still kind of looks kind of funny because it's just sitting there on this yellow background. It has, not the shape as well as you might want it to be. I am shaping up the vase. I'm recording this on my phone, and sometimes I'm having trouble seeing the palette because the recording bar is across from it. So if I'm not speaking, it's because I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. I mixed up some lighter greens, lighter blues, lighter grays, all with the same colors that I had on my palette. And bring it down and putting them in different angles. Making sure that I have a dark lines underneath. Putting some of that and suggestions of leaves. But see how that popped? Because I have another lighter color. I'm building up the layers. I'll end up going back and adding some, or did I already put, I can't tell on here if I already added the really dark, but like I said, these are more like little stems I decided to put on here. There you go. See, there's like a leaf there. And I got my gray mixing in with, I'm going to do a background right now. And the background's going to be a white background. I have the gloss glazing medium in it. Sometimes when I do my background, I do layers. This is only one. So I have white and gray. So I decided to pick up a little bit of blue. That's cerulean blue. It's a transparent color. And I'm going to now start shaping. I don't have my shadow in yet. A lot of times I put it in first. This time I just forgot about it. So I'm taking it and I'm going to shape some leaves right there with my brush, using it to kind of draw in the color. So when I use the gloss, it's not laying the paint down so thick where I can't move it. I can move it and I'm okay with leaving my ground color showing through. It really is pretty if you even have a dark ground color like black. And you can have that showing through and it gives it like nice shadows against your art. So one thing I didn't show here, I believe I did after you see how I got the brush there. I think I took my finger and actually smudged. Oh, I did do it. Okay. I smudged it right there. It made it softer along the lines of the flower. But see how the flower doesn't look so dark anymore? It's brightening it up. I do this, I can tell, okay, so do I want to put more highlights on here? I didn't want it to be exactly like the other one. The other picture is very pink, light florals and lighter leaves. I was trying to aim this to be a little darker. So I'm shaping leaves. And then I'm going to add, I do have that little black, remember I said I use it once in a while. I'm adding it to my gray to make my cast shadow coming off. When I get done with all this, I do go back and I paint my sides black. And you see the shadow on the frame on the left. I paint it black and I sign it. I wait till it's dry. I have this Sharpie marker that I use in gold or copper. And then I'll take the same brush after the black is dry, and I'll run it along and do a gold paint I have. And then I'll frame it. And I don't know if I do it on here, but it doesn't have enough. I think I go back. It doesn't have enough highlights on the flowers. So I'll go back and take some of that paint and I'll lighten it up. I don't add all white to this one. I decided not to. But I'll lighten it up and do some highlights throughout the roses and the buds. So I'm still shaping. I'm looking at it to see what I want. I have two waters there. One's usually for cleaning my brush, and the other one is for in case I need water on my brush, which is clean. So I got some of the white. I think I shouldn't add that gloss glazing liquid. I think I wiped my brush off here because I really just want, yeah, I am going to lighten it up. Put some little highlights. Yep, I wiped it off. I'm going to put some highlights on here. Seeing how I'm just holding my brush? Y'all, a lot of people are very realistic artists. It's never been something I have desired to do. So I like playing with colors. I like bigger brushes. So see how it started out really dark at the beginning and its layers? You can still see the darkness underneath. You can see the darkness under the petals. And all of this is depending on how you mix your paint. But the paints on the left, or right, excuse me, are a lot of the colors that I use a lot. I do like yellow ochre. That's on my palette. Two different kinds of yellow, an opaque and transparent. And see, I'm just going in and I'm adding touches of color. And I'm going to go back and put some like stems around, wrapping around the flowers. I'm probably darking up the green. Sometimes I struggle getting my, see how the green's darker? So like I said, it's like a push and pull of dark and lights. All doing this is really looking at depth. You want depth in your painting. So I added a little bit of the black so that just a touch to darken my green a little bit. And I'm putting stems down. So you could see it on the left a little better for the picture. See how the stems are? I went back afterwards. And I'm going to shape some little leaves going around it. Going back doing lights and dark. See, I did some lights. I find that since I've been painting, this is probably one of my favorite things. People can look at it and go, okay, I don't like the way you did. This is just, I like painting like this. I like using a bigger brush. I like using the glossing liquid to help me move the paint. Acrylics dry so fast that adding a, see how I'm making lighter? So now I'm just putting some lighter in it. Yeah. And I will go back after I'm all done with this, I think. After my paintings aren't usually done till I let it sit for an hour or two or even the next day. And I go, okay, I need to add some more highlights. Because sometimes you can overwork it. I'm going back and that's not pure white. That is the pink that I had, and I added a little bit white to it. The only time I think I really add just white, I don't like that little piece here, so I think I'll wipe it off with my hand. When I add a dab of white, it's just little touches of it throughout. When I'm all done, I'll add some white on the base. See on the left-hand side, there's highlights of white. I take my brush and I will just run it through and have a sharp point. See, I'm holding it and just pushing it. My last layer. And then I'll also pick up some of my background color and make it a little more blue. And when I'm all done, I will put some color inside the flowers itself. When I put the one color somewhere, I try to add it somewhere else, either in the vase. You want your eye to flow through the picture. I'm trying to get you guys to see it, and I'm looking at the camera. My camera's kind of low, so I couldn't tell how you can see this, but I do have the complete picture at the beginning and at the end. And I think that's pretty much it. I thank you very much. Bye-bye.